Okay, so I'm recording now.
You're recording?
I've started recording.
This is Politically Incorrect with Thierry Tchenko, episode 3, Texas Democratic Party Convention Recap, featuring Gloria Martinez Tchenko, a delegate at the Texas Democratic Party Convention.
That's right.
Uh,
First time delegate.
First time delegate. But we're on the road.
And we apologize for the jankiness of this.
Yes.
Having the headphones in like this to record this episode.
Yes. So we're on the road leaving El Paso.
Yeah.
We apologize for the jankiness of all of this, but this is the way that we had to do it to make sure that y'all are able to hear us well. So we have the earphones on and just make it work how it works.
Yeah.
Flo, where do you want to start with the Texas Democratic Party Convention? It was in El Paso, Texas.
It was my first time in El Paso.
Your first time in El Paso.
Yeah.
It was my second time in El Paso. We got there Wednesday night.
Yeah.
So we got there Wednesday night. 11-hour drive. Well, tell me kind of your thoughts on the drive and the beginning of our time in El Paso.
Yeah, I think this felt like a long drive.
Yes. No. That's all good.
Um,
It was a long drive when we came on Wednesday, and it's a long drive now as we're driving back.
and I'll say the same thing. I don't think it feels that long.
Yeah, okay. It's long. It's a long drive, bro.
Sure, it's driving right now, but it hasn't.
Okay, let's just go to the first topic because that's crazy.
Obviously, we all know time-wise, 3.5 hours to Dallas. This is 10 hours, but
Right.
I guess like mentally, the drive to Texas with all the mountains and everything. So it's just
It was good. It was really cool to be able to come back to this side of Texas. The last time that we were out here was during the campaign, so being able to go through. I like West Texas. We went through Ozona, we went through Sonora, so a lot of the places that we went to during our West Texas tour,
Yeah.
we came back through those
Fort
places.
Stockton.
Fort Stockton. So that was neat, and we got to El Paso Wednesday night. We got there safely, and then the first day of the convention was on Thursday. So that was the official first day where you could get your credentials and different caucuses.
Well, people were picking up the credentials on Wednesday too.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Thursday, different caucuses were having their events, their parties. The first spot that we went to was the Mothers Against Greg Abbott and the 134 pack happy hour. I think that was at the Hotel Paso del Norte.
That wasn't at the plaza.
It might have been. It might have been at the
Yeah.
plaza. So yeah, kind of how did you feel about?
It was really neat. I mean, we got to see a lot of the same people that we saw when we were campaigning for you. We got to hang out with we got to see Nancy, Mothers Against Greg Abbott, and just different people that we saw. So that was really
Yeah, I saw we saw a lot of people that ended up being on the campaign, and it was really neat to see how it seemed like it was a hub where a lot of different folks were coming in and out of the hotel, going to the happy hour. I think there was a spot downstairs as well that had some stuff going on. So I'd never really, this was my first convention as well. So, my first Texas Democratic Party convention.
Yeah.
So being able to see all of that was very neat. And then throughout the night, we ended up going to a couple of different parties and happy hours. I know we went to HBAD, Houston Black American Democrats, their social. That was really cool, being able to see a lot of the folks from Houston being there.
And we met someone who it was her first convention too. So that was really,
But then there were also some people that we saw there that aren't from Houston that were just supporting.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sabrina in Bowie County, and then shout out to Nick in Collin County as well. So we were there with them too, and that was nice. I'm trying to think about what else we went to.
got social.
Mhm.
Tejano Dems.
Tejano Democrats. So Tejano Democrats, Pachanga Social. That was good. So yeah, I mean those were the type of things that were going on that Thursday night, heading into Friday, which was the day where I believe the majority of the events and the majority of stuff was going on
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah, Friday it started really early for some people.
7:30.
7:30 was the first group of caucuses that were meeting. And so that was good. We went to the 8th.
The county chair associations.
Yeah. I
meeting.
went to the Texas Democratic Women That was a really good one. We got to hear from a bunch of different women, elected officials. Yeah, it was really neat.
And so,
Packed house. I mean, people were on the walls and stuff. It was
yeah,
packed.
yeah. And things were set up well. El Paso Convention Center. I think El Paso did a really good job in being able to welcome us, making sure that everything was okay. The folks that were there working on site were extremely nice, extremely welcoming. So I appreciated that because it's not always that way whenever you're going to a convention or going to a conference, but those folks were really, really nice.
And I felt that way, not just at the convention, but I think across the board, just really nice people
Yeah.
in El Paso.
Yeah. Yeah. At the different restaurants that we went to,
Yeah.
yeah, everybody seemed to be very cordial, very nice.
Yeah. I agree. And then what other caucus did you go to? Caucus meetings.
Yeah, so I went to the Black Caucus meeting. I went to the Asian American Democrats of Texas meeting where I saw Nicolette Ardiente. She was there, so that was
Shout out
nice.
Nicolette.
Shout out Nicolette. We were also went to the Black Caucus, went to the Hispanic Caucus, and you were there.
Which is funny, I didn't see you there.
Mhm.
I guess you were just in the back. But yeah, I was sitting there. I got to vote. That was a lot of fun. Again, this is my first convention, so I didn't know what to expect in terms of voting, how it happens, but they let a lot of people come up that were on the ballot, kind of give their 1 minute spiel on why you should vote for them. So it was cool.
Then I also went to the West Texas Democratic Association caucus meeting, so that was good seeing a lot of our West Texas folks. A lot of rural folks were in there. That was good. Trying to think about some of the other caucuses that we went to. There are a couple more. There are a couple more that I think I visited for a short time before the congressional district caucuses. And so we went to 18. We also went to 9. So we were in 18, we're in 9. So that was good. So we were able to, I think from the time that we got there all the way until the congressional district caucuses, we were able to get a taste of a lot of the different groups that make up the Texas Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And that was one of the funner parts for me, was being able to see the different groups because it's a very diverse state with a lot of different groups. And so being able to go and check out all of those different folks, it was very, very cool to see all in one place.
Yeah.
Because we've engaged with a lot of those different caucuses just in different pockets, but not all at the same time in the same place. So that was cool.
That was really. Would you say what would be your most memorable moment of the convention?
I think my most memorable moment was going to the county chair associations meeting.
Okay.
Because those were a lot of the folks that we worked with during the campaign. So being able to get in contact with them, showing up in their county, developing those relationships. So now being able to be at the convention and seeing all of them in the same place and just being able to appreciate them and thank them for what they do. And I told them when I was in there that they're some of the most underappreciated people in our state. And so I'll always have a soft spot for county chairs because it can be very difficult, especially whenever you're in a county that is a red county, to be a Democrat and to be proud about it and to be organizing different events in that type of environment. So I'm super thankful for them. So yeah, that was my most memorable moment of the convention, was being able to hang out and see the county chairs at the convention. How about you?
Most maybe memorable. I think I'll split it up into two different ways. I think my most memorable moment was running into everyone that we kind of saw, like you said earlier. We've seen these people in different pockets, but it's really neat to see them all at the same place. Like you walk a little bit, you see somebody else, you go a little more, you see other people, and everyone's just so excited to just kind of be together, and kind of be pulling towards the same goal. I think that's really cool. And then second is being able to vote for people that I met on the campaign.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So at the Hispanic Caucus, being able to vote for Hector.
Yeah.
What was that in Tyler? So being able to vote for him, and just like, yeah, just seeing that, I think that's really memorable to me.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Hector is the county chair in Smith County, if I'm not mistaken.
Is he the county chair?
Yes, I believe he's the county chair. He's either the county chair or he is the chair of the Democratic Club. He's the county chair?
County chair.
That's what I thought, yeah. So he's the county chair. Hector Garza. Shout out to Hector.
Yeah, Hector was really nice. They had a debate out in Tyler.
Yep, there was a forum, a
Yeah.
candidate forum in Tyler. That was during our East Texas tour.
That's right.
So that was what, in early February?
Yeah, February time.
In February. Really cool people. Loved East Texas, but yeah, no, shout out Hector. They did a great job there, coordinating everything. That was whenever so there was the forum going on, but then the Texas Coalition of Black Democrats were also having their
At the same time.
at the same
you guys
time.
go to to do their.
to do the process,
It was a screening.
the screening. That's the word for it, screening.
What are you excited for?
What am I excited for? I am excited about just doing the work. There's a lot of work that needs to be done between now and November for us to win the seats that we need to win. And so being able to do the work, being able to talk to more people, being able to understand more people's perspectives as we go along, that's something that I'm excited about. And being able to plug in, there are a lot of seats across this state that I believe are winnable. And so being able to also help out certain candidates. So I'll say that's another piece too, seeing some of the candidates that are running for different offices across the state. Some offices that are quote unquote the sexy offices that everyone talks about, but then also some offices that aren't talked about as much, but that are also extremely important. So we're talking about tax assessor races. We're talking about, different state house races. So being able to help those folks out so that they can get across the line. That's what I'm excited about heading into November. Because we're already almost 5 months away.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 months. Time goes by fast. So you
Excited for the work with other people, getting to work with other people.
for all that I expressed about the excitement and what I think were really memorable moments at the convention, there's something that stuck with me. And to me, I think it's the fact that there's a sense of urgency that I think that we have to have as a party, considering that we haven't won a statewide election in almost 30 years. It'll be 30 years this year if we don't win a statewide election, which I hope we do. I hope Colin gets over the line. I hope that Catherine Colbert gets over the line. But that to me is something that I think we have to have, is a sense of urgency. And I don't always feel like that is expressed often whenever we're talking about the state of the Democratic Party in Texas.
Yes, I just think it's not maybe how you would want to hear it.
Go. Tell me more.
I think people are tired, and I think you hear it in the way people are speaking. We're tired. We're ready for something else. We're ready for something new. And I feel you could also see that through the investments people are making in this state. And some may argue and say it's outside investment that's coming into Texas, from the DNC, from other places. But I still think it's an investment, and we shouldn't overlook that investment.
And how do you think?
Sorry, I was going to ask a question. Feel about that. So because the argument Ted Cruz makes is a lot of the money is coming from George Soros, and that's all they're ever going to say. George Soros, Chuck Schumer, I'm the number one target. How do you feel about that?
That's the last person that should be making a comment about out-of-state money when on his biggest issue, which is school vouchers, a lot of the folks that are pumping money into that conversation and into that issue are people from out of state.
Okay.
So I don't want to hear Ted Cruz talk about anything out of state wise, because there's a lot of out of state working alongside the Dunns, the Wilkes of the world to be able to try to get school vouchers passed in Texas. So that's one thing. But number two, I'm okay with outside investments. I think with anything political, you're always going to have certain people from outside that feel that they need to invest into a certain area. So my issue is not necessarily outside investment. What I think I have an issue with is whenever it feels like folks on the outside, their perspectives and their preferences is being prioritized over the priorities of Texans. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. And
So,
to give an example, what you're saying is if Texans are saying school choice, school vouchers, or fighting against it is our number one priority, but what we're hearing as a messaging is on the Palestine or Israel conflict,
yes,
right?
that
So if someone's saying that's Texans within Texas are saying my number one issue is my school funding, you guys are defunding my schools, all this and that. But
yes,
what we're seeing in the media or something else, it's just focused on something else.
yes, that is, and that doesn't mean that the Israel-Palestine conflict isn't an important issue. But I do think that whenever you're a public servant, you need to be extremely mindful of what the people that you're trying to serve care about and what they're telling you their priorities are. So if they're telling you, hey, my priority is making sure that our schools are funded, having a strong public education system, if my priorities are, look, immigration is a big issue. We need to make sure that we have a safe and secure border. We need to make sure that we get some immigration laws passed so that our status quo doesn't continue on being the status quo, then that's something that you have to address.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, at times, it can feel like people on the outside are having an outsized influence in the policies that folks in Texas are advocating for. But to the conversation about sense of urgency, how do you think I would like to hear sense of urgency within the Democratic Party?
It's not the right word, but
Actually, it might be the right word. But
okay. So I think you want people to be more angry or more upset about the fact that we've lost for so long. And what does that anger turn into? And maybe, and I don't know, I mean, Colin might understand this too because he was a professional football player, but if it's an athlete thing,
yeah,
right, you guys, when you're athletes, you turn anger into action, right? If something pisses you off, that you made a bad play, you're mad about it. And so the next play has to be better
yeah,
than that one that you messed up in. So I think it may be something of that you feel like I have to be angry if something hasn't gone right.
mm,
And then what does that anger then translate to?
yeah. I think that's an interesting way of putting it. There is a competitive streak that I have, and I think when I apply it to politics, it's we haven't won a statewide election in 30 years. That is having huge consequences on people's lives all across the state in a number of ways, right? Whether you're talking about education, Abbott, Cruz, Paxton, Patrick trying to pass school vouchers, whether
You named so many people.
yeah,
It's
because all of
crazy.
them, yeah,
You
all
just
of them,
named so many.
no, all of them are gonna get, all of them gotta get it. All of them have to get it. Whether it's health insurance and us being the most uninsured state in the country, you have a lot of places in Texas that don't have a doctor in their county.
Yeah.
Or childcare, or even abortion. When you look at the abortion ban, does that reflect who we are as Texans? Right? Not having any. So when you go across the board, there are huge consequences to Democrats not being in office. And so there's an anger that I believe that we have to have if we're going to stop this drought. And it's the longest drought in the country. 30 years is the longest drought of any party not winning a statewide race. Yes, I think that deserves anger. I think that's the only way but the way that the anger is refined. So I don't want people to misinterpret me saying, I just think that we should be running around cussing people out. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that there's an anger that we have to have, and now it's about refining it in the ways that it needs to be refined to make sure that we get 51% in November. So, yeah.
No. I want you to finish your point.
No.
Yeah. So we talked to someone briefly at the convention, and they mentioned voter registration.
Yep.
And you and I have had this conversation about registering people to vote.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's groups, organizations that's their focus is registering people to vote.
And it's good work.
Good work. Now, where are we mobilizing those? Because that's one piece of the puzzle is registering people to vote.
Mm-hmm.
The other piece of the puzzle is getting those people out to vote.
Yes.
And I think that's super important because there's so many currently registered voters that haven't voted in any election.
Yes.
And so your thing about Texas not being a voting state, or what's the thing that you dislike?
So I'm not a fan of the saying Texas is not a red state, it's a non-voting state. And I've now even heard Texas is not a red state, it's a blue state with people that don't vote. I'm not a fan of that statement at all.
Why?
Because our reality is our reality. We haven't won a statewide race in Texas in 30 years. Republicans have won every single statewide race in Texas for 30 years. So it's a red state until we start winning races to where we can say it's a blue state. You have to deal with reality. And I think that, and maybe that's not the intent of everyone that says it, but I think it's to try to be optimistic. But to me, there's nothing optimistic about losing 30 straight years. But we have to deal with that reality so that we can change things and have a new reality. So Texas is a red state. That doesn't mean that Texas will continue on being a red state, but it also doesn't mean that Texas can't continue on being a red state. There are things that we have to do to change the status quo. But we have to talk in reality. We have to.
And so going back to the voting thing.
Yeah.
So you've registered voters, but now how do we target those registered voters? And I think that's the question so many of us ask, right? In all of these, in the different places that we've been to,
Yeah.
people are like, it's my people that haven't voted. How do I get them out? How do I convince them to come out? And we were talking to somebody else. I mean, thankfully we had so many good conversations during this convention. But you have your registered voters. Now I think my personal opinion is we can't just talk to these people at election time.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be, the primaries, 2 months before the primaries, we're targeting these people. 2 months before the general election, we're targeting these people. I think it has to be a steady flow of communication with voters to emphasize why it's important for them to come out and vote. I can't pretend to convince you in 2 months of something.
100%. 100%. And in addition to that, I also think that you have to be able to give voters hope. Voters have to feel like if I'm going to vote for X candidate, that I can see myself in the policies that they're going to be advocating for. I can see myself in them. That to me is huge. And if you don't have that, you can register people all day long. But if they don't see themselves in the Democratic Party, if they don't see themselves in these candidates in one way or another, then they're not going to end up going out and voting. That is just what is happening. People can register to vote. You can get them. No, I'm not registered. Yes. Sign them up. They get registered. That's a great thing. But it's a lot deeper. It's a lot deeper. We have to actually give people hope to go out and vote. So I think I would I would want to see a little bit more anger, a little bit more sense of urgency from our party as a whole as it pertains to winning elections in this state because of what it means when we travel the state. You know, talking about Ozona and Sonora that we talked about earlier, those are two places where they don't have physical delivery for mail.
Yep.
Right? Post office don't do any delivery, something that we take for granted in Houston. Oh yeah, they're gonna deliver it to our mailbox, no problem. So medicine, different paperwork that needs to be signed, they're not getting it. You now have to pay to have a PO box. So now you're expecting someone to have money to pay for a PO box to now being able to get your medicine, and that can become a life and death situation.
So I was reading. It's funny you say that. I was reading. They're not supposed to charge you if they don't do physical deliveries. They're not supposed to charge you for that. But some places are charging folks for that.
Which is a problem.
Huge problem.
Huge
Again,
problem.
you're saying you're making the assumption that I can afford to pay you the $30 a month, $15 a month for my PO box.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or even so, I mean, the post office, that's one thing. Another thing, and I'm thinking about these places because we drove through them as we were heading to El Paso. Rock Springs. So you're talking about no cell service, no broadband. They are disconnected from a lot of different parts of the state. I'm thinking about small business owners that aren't able to sell their goods. Just basic things that you may take for granted in an urban place. In rural places like Rock Springs, they don't have some of those basic things that I think that every single Texan should have. So when we talk about elections being consequential and elections being important, and why whenever you have a 30-year drought, you have a lot of problems that exist. Those are some of the things that are realities for a lot of people in the state of Texas. What are your thoughts on sense of urgency? How do you feel like it should be communicated? I've kind of expressed my thoughts and how I think that we should be talking, but what do you think?
I don't have the answer. I think we need to be talking about it the way that you're saying. I feel like we need to address it head on. It can't just be implied. You can't brush over it. Like, enough's enough. Like, we're going to win now. I think you have to address it head on. We have not won. And I think someone was giving a speech yesterday and they mentioned it, like, head on 30 years. But it needs to be the front and center for what we're doing. And that's the focus. We haven't won in 30 years. What's going to be different now? I think the more you keep just saying, now's the time we're going to turn Texas blue, we're going to turn Texas blue, I think it can give people a false sense of security.
Yep.
And maybe people are like, oh, since they're so convinced that we're going to turn Texas blue, maybe I can stay home. I don't have to worry about voting. Instead of, if you don't come out, we're going to continue this way. And I think maybe that's where I would want to see more of a sense of urgency there. Like, if people don't come out, then this is what's going to happen.
How much do you think we should be examining why we haven't won over the last 30 years? Because I think that there are times where, as you said, that we're not meeting it head on. And I'm not always sure that the questions that we're asking are the right questions to ask. Thoughts?
I think we always have to examine, if you go through a drought, and you look at sports, if there's a team that has gone 30 seasons without winning, something's going to change. Whether that's management is changing, your general manager is changing, you're changing coaches every 2 years. Like, something's got to give.
Schemes are changing, so maybe the way that you were playing, you'll change up strategy, you'll do...
Yeah, in soccer, you're either doing 4-4-3-2, whatever. Like, you're changing something up.
Yeah.
And it just has to, because there's nothing anywhere else that you say 30 years of losing and we're not changing anything up.
Mm-hmm.
And so sticking with this, like, sports metaphor, being angry and all of that.
And just so you know, soccer, 10 players in the field, so 4-4-2 or 4-3-3. It's okay.
That was close enough.
It's okay.
But I just think that something's got to give. And I haven't seen that give yet of what's giving in our party right now. how are we changing the way we're communicating? Some people would argue and say we need to let go of the moderates, right? Forget the moderates. We've been trying this for 30 years. Maybe they'll say that's the argument. We've been trying this for 30 years. Forget them. Stop chasing them. We got to focus on your base and your progressive, and those are the people that are going to come out and vote.
Which I think is the wrong conversation.
Okay.
I don't think it's a matter of moderates versus progressives. I think are the policies that you're supporting policies that are going to help everyday people, or they're not. It's not a matter of moderates versus progressives. And I think that that's a fight. It's a trap that we fall into often. And so we end up pitting Democrats against each other whenever we shouldn't be doing that. We should be examining, are these things going to be able to help the everyday person, the everyday family in this state? Naturally, whenever you have a party, not everyone is going to agree on everything.
That's right. I mean, Republicans are the perfect example right now.
Exactly. And they're winning even though they're not agreeing on everything.
Yeah.
But forget a party. Even in a relationship, we don't agree on everything.
No.
I would say that we have a good marriage. You would agree?
Yes.
But we don't agree on everything. That doesn't mean that it can't be successful.
Agreed.
And so the fight of moderates versus progressives, I think, takes up a lot of our time instead of really digging and saying, okay, we haven't won for this long. Why is that? Why is it that people feel like they don't want to trust the Democratic Party with their vote? Right? Because you can end up saying we need to bring in more people into the pool. Yes, let's get more registered voters to actually vote. That's important. But the people that vote are the people that vote for the most part. Right? You're going to be able to have certain cycles where you're bringing in some new folks. Cool. But the people that vote are the people that are going to vote. So why aren't we looking at those folks and saying, man, why is it that this person was voting for Democrats in the late 80s, in the early 90s, but now they can't even see themselves as a Democrat. They don't even want to associate themselves with the Democratic Party. That's a problem, right? You're going to have some new folks that come in, and you're going to have your decidedly Democrats, and cool, we appreciate those folks. But I think for me, a lot of what I think about is, why do people view the Democratic Party as being so toxic? Yeah. Right? Because when we go to a convention like this, a lot of us are on the same page. We love the Democratic Party. It's why we're here. Right? But this is not the majority of the state. Right? We're a select group of people that are able to attend something like this, or that want to attend something like this. But the majority of people in the state either don't want to or don't have that luxury. My mom isn't able to come to a convention and take 3-4 days to be able to do something like this.
No.
But it's people like her that, I'm asking those questions. Why is this party toxic? What do you like about it? What do you like about the party? What do you not like about the party? And I think that type of examination needs to be done more, and we need to be okay with whatever we get back. Right? I think we shouldn't sugarcoat it. We need to be okay with, this is how the people are feeling. People feel like they can't see themselves in the Democratic Party because we now come across like we're a part of elites. We come across as if we think that we're better than other people.
Do you feel like we're more inclined to cancel culture?
Yes, I think it's
No, more than the Republicans?
Yes. It's a nuanced question, but if you had to tell me to answer yes or no, yes. I think that there are certain people that may want to entertain the Democratic Party, but have reservations about certain policies that we may push or highlight. So you have certain people that may be like, you know what? I don't necessarily agree with the way that a lot of Democratic politicians talk about abortion. But if I come out and say that, I may get canceled.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a lot of people that are active in the party that feel that way. That I may not necessarily vibe 100% with the way that the party talks about abortion, but I don't want to say anything because I'm going to get looked down upon.
Yeah.
Another issue may be oil and gas. Certain people that may be like, look, I want to entertain the Democratic Party, but I feel like the Democratic Party is so anti-oil and gas that I can't see myself there, especially if I have a job at a refinery.
Yeah.
Or I put food on the table for my family because of this oil and gas job. So those are some of the things that we have to really examine. We traveled across the state hearing a lot of these stories, talking to Democrats that are faithful Democrats that love the Democratic Party, but then also talking to other folks that don't have a good feeling about the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And so being able to ask those questions is extremely important because that doesn't happen by accident. You don't have a losing record as a team for 30 straight seasons by happenstance. Just like you don't have a winning record for 30 straight seasons by happenstance. So I look at Mike Tomlin, head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's never had a losing season as a head coach. It's not by accident. It means that there are good habits. He's recruiting or they're drafting good players. In free agency, they're getting good players to sign with the Steelers. There are a number of reasons that they're running good schemes. Their strategy is good. Their offense, their defense, their special teams. There's a reason why he hasn't had a losing season. Now, there are other coaches and there are other teams that have been losing for a long time.
Not speaking from personal.
No, well, I'm not speaking from personal experience, and I don't want us to dig any deeper on what I just said. But there's a reason. There's a reason for that. And so I think we have to do that examination. And the last thing I'll say here, and if you have anything, please feel free to share. But we should be critiquing the things that we love. I actually believe that you don't truly love something unless you're willing to critique it. If I'm willing to say, man, I love you, then that means that I want you to maximize your potential. If I don't do that, then I don't really love you. If I'm not willing to say, hey, Gloria, this is what you're doing, I don't really appreciate it, or this is the way that it may be coming across.
I would disagree there I would disagree that you don't really love something. I would say you're not loving them well.
Oh,
I could love you, but
yeah,
not loving you well.
that's another way of saying it, and I like that. So you're not loving them well. That's a good way of saying it.
Because I think people do love the Democratic Party.
Yes.
But are we loving the Democratic Party well if we're not willing to do that self-examination?
Yep.
And yeah.
Yeah. And we have to work those things out in real time. And the worst type of perspective to have is, oh, well, they were never going to support us, so forget about them. Or we shouldn't listen to them. We should only listen to these group of people. That is not the type of perspective that we should have. If we want to be a big tent party that brings in people from different backgrounds and different perspectives, then we need to be listening to everybody. Because everybody's opinion is valuable. You can learn something from everyone. You don't have to agree with it, but you can learn something. And I think that we need to take that approach. The idea that as a Democratic Party that we're arrogant is whenever we haven't won for 30 years. We should be the most humble party in the United States of America. Willing to listen to any perspective and all perspectives. Willing to learn any lesson that we can learn to get us across the line. The Republican Party, in contrast, can have an arrogant approach. They've been winning for so long, they can say, look, we know how to get it done. We don't have to listen to y'all. We know that come November, we're going to be victorious.
I mean, that's what people are, and what we can wrap up with this, but I feel like that's what we were saying with Greg Abbott, saying we've already won a majority to pass school vouchers. Elections haven't happened yet.
But
he's very confident that he's going to have the votes needed to win.
Which will be interesting to see. Like, that whole thing is a thing in and of itself, which maybe we can dedicate an episode to on school vouchers and how Greg Abbott is operating. But yes, the Republican Party in Texas can afford to be arrogant. The Democratic Party in Texas cannot afford to be arrogant. We shouldn't be arrogant. And if we are arrogant, that is the last place that we should be. And that arrogance will not lead us to victory. Anything else? I like this. We're still driving.
Still driving.
It's a long drive. But this is politically incorrect. So 3,
On the road.
on the road, Texas Democratic Party Convention recap
And other
and other.
topics.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is I really do appreciate everyone that was at the Texas Democratic Party Convention. Being able to take time and fight for what you believe in is something that should always be appreciated. We may not all agree, we may not always be on the same page, but as a Democratic Party, we need every single one of y'all. And so, as a former candidate and someone that loves the Democratic Party and wants us to do well, I really appreciate everyone that was there. And so, if anybody watches this that was there, I really do appreciate you. If I met you, it was great meeting you. And we got a lot of work to do. Any message?
That's it.
That's it.